Once said, preparation through education is less costly than learning through a tragedy. And with what the world is suffering from in today's generation, I couldn't agree more. Disasters are unpredictable, life-threatening occurrences, and if we are not well prepared, we will be placed at risk. Natural catastrophes have struck the Philippines multiple times in recent years. Take, for example, the recent disaster caused by Typhoon Odette, which impacted approximately 1,803,365 families in 7,687 barangays across the country. Or the Taal volcano eruption, which occurred 2 years ago on January 12, 2020, and displaced thousands of people, destroyed infrastructure, and disrupted livelihood. Disasters can take many forms. It could be a typhoon, earthquake, hurricane, wildfire, drought, or other natural disaster. Disasters aren't something that we should just dismiss. They're terrifying, which is why we need to be prepared. Our fate is in our hands. We, ourselves, are the only ones who can keep us truly safe. One of the most common reasons why individuals are severely affected by disasters, particularly with themselves and their possessions, is a lack of preparation in the first place. There will always be unpredictable instances in our lives, and disasters are some of them. According to the World Risk Index, the Philippines is one of the top 10 natural disaster-prone countries in the world, with approximately 74% of its population of more than 100 million vulnerable to the effects of such disasters. So, what can we do to ensure that we are prepared in the event of a disaster? There are practically countless things that each of us can do to prepare for a disaster, and some of them are as follows. First, keep a copy of emergency hotlines in your home because this will be beneficial not only for you and your family, but also to those in need in the event of an emergency. Next, keep a 72-hour kit which should include non-perishable food for your family size, water, essential kits such as first aid kit and a sanitation kit, a flashlight and extra batteries, and a portable battery-powered radio, among other things. Furthermore, we must secure emergency routes and create a list of the most important places for you and your family to evacuate or go to in the event of a serious emergency. Also, in these types of situations, it would also be necessary to learn how to carry out first aid. In a time where most of us have already been through a lot when it comes to the occurrences of these life-threatening disasters, it is vital that we become prepared this time, so that whatever awaits us in the future, we already know what to do. Whether we like it or not, being prepared will undoubtedly help us in times of crisis. Furthermore, it is unavoidable sometimes that we would not have enough time, effort, awareness, or money to prepare for a certain disaster, which is why we must be aware of what we must do during the event of a disaster. The Philippines, because of its location and geographical context, is vulnerable to a variety of natural disasters, including coastal hazards such as typhoons and storm surges, as well as earthquakes, landslides, droughts, among others. The Filipinos have been through a lot when it comes to these disasters over time. And while experiencing disaster is nothing new for most of us, the fear remains inevitable. In relation to this situation, it is essential to keep areas most vulnerable to disasters checked and monitored on a regular basis, as the people who live there are always the ones who suffer the most in times of unfortunate crisis due to disasters. Thus, during a disaster, the first thing that we need to do is to remain calm, know what we need to do, and be alert. Next, ensure your own and your family's safety. Don't put your lives in danger just to save some material possessions. What matters is that you and your family are safe and alive. It is strictly advised to stay in places that are safe for you and your family to stay in. Moreover, in disasters that are common in most of our communities, such as earthquakes, typhoons, and storm surges, we must remember not to stay near things that may collapse or break in the middle of a disaster, such as windows, electricity posts, or in places where we do not have anything to cover our heads. We have to constantly remind ourselves that a disaster could happen anytime. Knowing what to do in the event of it will surely help us in our survival and safety. Furthermore, a disaster's aftermath will always be a source of unfathomable grief. Disasters may claim lives, damage hard-earned assets, alter normal lifestyle, and cause a significant gap in social and personal growth. But the most essential thing in all these burdens is that we survive. Even so, we should be aware of some essential measures to follow in the aftermath of a disaster to safeguard our general safety. Some of these include calling for immediate assistance from emergency hotlines if serious help is required, inspecting your property for any damages that could potentially harm you or your family, visiting evacuation centers if necessary, be able to attend to any emotional distress or physical injuries caused by the disaster, checking your surroundings if it's safe or not to come out, and utilizing essential kits that contain water, food, and other important necessities such as a radio and a flashlight. Any disaster recovery will definitely take time, but it is always better than not surviving at all. That is why we must be attentive in how we respond to these challenging circumstances, as our actions would reflect how we truly care for the safety of our own and our loved ones. As a country located along the Pacific Ring of Fire and in an area prone to coastal hazards, it is unsurprising that the Philippines have been affected by multiple disasters that have impacted the entire population. These scenarios, however, cannot be avoided. It occurs spontaneously and is quite unpredictable. In order to respond to these life-threatening situations, we must first know what to do. What can we do to prepare for, respond to, and recover from a disaster? It may appear to be basic, yet it has the potential to provide us true safety for us and our families. We are evidently putting our lives at risk if we do not take precautions as soon as possible and educate ourselves of the endless possibilities that may occur when disaster strikes. Disaster preparedness will always be an important lesson that we should incorporate in our daily lives, since we never know what tomorrow may bring us. But as long as we know in ourselves that we have a plan in place, we will know exactly what will benefit us. Thank you and have a pleasant day to all.